Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you follow the gaming scene pretty closely, you may know that Woodhucker, aka BeatEmUps on YouTube, was recently let go from Nintendo's ambassador program. They just sort of unceremoniously just sort of let him go, and he was really sad about that, and I totally get it. I actually can relate on some degree, and I will tell you why and how that happened in just a minute. First, I want to just sort of read his, just what he said, his tweet. He goes, "Sadly, Nintendo contacted me today to say their Nintendo Ambassador program is coming to an end and they would not be continuing my membership. It feels really weird to not be in their program as I joined them 5 years ago. Nintendo and my channel have been synonymous since 2013. Now, if you watch BeatEmUps, you know he's a huge Nintendo fan, and I totally get it, why he's bummed out about that. And requisites, you know, sort of your qualifications for being part of the Nintendo Ambassador Program, or like a strong social media presence, which BeatEmUps obviously has. He's got almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube and will surely pass that. He's got over 80,000 followers on Twitter. And another qualification is to be passionate about Nintendo. He very obviously is. His I almost said station, that's really dated. His YouTube channel is obviously very Nintendo heavy and Nintendo branding. He's all about Nintendo. He grew up with Nintendo and all that stuff. And it's just kind of strange that he was taken off of it. He speculated that maybe it has to do with maybe he puts too much of himself, his own personality into his channel. He's never negative about Nintendo, so who can say? Now, I can relate to this on some degree. So during my days of writing for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I wrote gaming stuff for them and other pop culture things for them for well over a decade. And the Star-Telegram at the time had over 200,000 subscribers. And that's subscribers to the physical paper. That doesn't include online readership or total readership. If a newspaper has over 200,000 subscribers, then we're talking over 1 million readers most likely, because you've got families reading the newspaper. You've got the newspaper in businesses, so you know different workers would read it. You've got the newspaper in different magazines and bookstores just lying around where multiple people would read it. So likely the Star-Telegram, when I was writing all my video game previews and all that kind of stuff, likely had well over 1 million readers. And so I was in good with Nintendo, and they would send me a ton of stuff. Now, before I show you some of the things they sent me, I want to show you a little bit of some of the newspaper articles I did about video games. Just want to show you the covers because they're pretty neat. I did a feature on the National Video Game Museum and just different gaming things in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's a great area for video games. There's lots of arcades. There's the National Video Game Museum, obviously, which I just talked about. There's gaming cons and other things. And I would do, like, for example, the holiday shopping guide. And I was never negative about Nintendo, not because I was in their back pocket or anything, but because the type of work I did was like holiday previews, fall guides, spring guides, summer guides, and you wouldn't recommend games that are coming out in the fall or the spring or whatever, or offer your summer gift guide for things, for bad games or for games you didn't like. So I would generally be very positive about Nintendo's offerings because that was the type of work I was doing. Recommendations. Let's see. I did an article about the Let's Play Gaming Expo in Dallas-Fort Worth. Here's one of my spring guides with Zelda very prominently featured on the cover. Breath of the Wild, I believe. Yeah, there you go. And here's one of my fall gift guides. And so it was really gratifying writing for the Star-Telegram because, I would get up and ride my bike in the morning and just see, this was a few years ago when newspapers were more prominent than they are today. Even just as short as 5-10 years ago, many more people subscribed to the physical newspaper than they do today. And I would be riding my bike around and just see the Star-Telegram all over the place in people's yards. And it was really cool when one of my articles in there, and that was very nice. That was very gratifying. I did other stuff too, like the Justice League movie, or when Kiss was coming to town, when Star Trek turned 50, all kinds of stuff. I absolutely loved writing for the Star Telegram, and it was a great way to keep up with modern gaming. As many of you know, I'm primarily a retro gamer, but also, do modern gaming as well. And writing these gift guides, these previews, it was a fantastic way to keep up with modern gaming and to have my foot in that world. I loved it. Really bummed out that I don't do that anymore, but before that even stopped, when I was still writing full bore for the Star Telegram, gung-ho, had articles in there all the time. They pulled the rug out from under me. They suddenly stopped sending me stuff. And they were sending me tons of stuff along with email updates, and they would invite me to different private events and things like console previews. And one day I got home and sitting on my porch was a brand new Nintendo Switch shortly after it came out with 2 games. Totally awesome. Basically a product demo, more or less. It should have been a pack-in with the console, 1-2 Switch, but we had fun with it. And then the awesome, epic Breath of the Wild. Now, great stuff, and I was really excited to get that. And they sent me a 3DS XL, which was awesome. I already had just a regular 3DS, so it was really cool to add the, I already had a DS and a 3DS, and then I got the 3DS XL, which Nintendo just sent me. I didn't even ask for it. Didn't ask for most of the stuff Nintendo sent me, but they would just keep it coming. Tons of DS games, Switch games. They would send me Wii U games when that was, console was the main thing, and it was awesome. They sent me tons and tons of codes too. They sent me so many codes I couldn't possibly play or even sample all these games. They sent, excuse me, they sent me so many. So what I would do is I would give away the codes, just offer as a prize. I would just on Twitter or Facebook, I would just offer, list your favorite Nintendo game and, random drawing, you'll win this code or whatever, that kind of thing. It was a lot of fun. So I was really bummed, and they just sort of stopped sending me stuff. They didn't let me know. I wasn't part of the Nintendo Ambassador program per se, but I was, writing for the Star Telegram, which had so many readers. I definitely was, right up there in their line of vision, and they sent me tons of stuff because all these gift guides, these Christmas guides, all this stuff was great publicity for Nintendo. And I also wrote about Nintendo for some of the different magazines that the Star Telegram published, which they no longer do. So I was in good with Nintendo. Well, that suddenly stopped showing up. And that was kind of a bummer because everybody likes to get free stuff. I loved writing about Nintendo for the paper and on and on and on. And it just suddenly, the gravy train stopped all of a sudden. Like, what is going on? So I emailed the publicist that I'd been working with for many years with Nintendo. Actually, their publicist would switch out over time. There were several different ones. So the one I was working with at the time, I emailed and I said, hadn't heard from you guys in a while. What's up? I'm still writing for the Star Telegram. And she said, well, we have a new policy where if you want to review a particular Nintendo product or feature it in a gift guide or anything else, you have to ask for a specific title. Now, I get that, they don't want to send out a bunch of free stuff that's not getting reviewed or spotlighted or anything, so I kind of get that, but that brought what I did to pretty much a screeching halt as far as the gift guides and things, to a degree. I was still doing the gift guides, but it was much harder to spotlight the Nintendo products without the actual items. And so they said you have to ask for each item individually. So I would do that to some degree, but without having a bunch of games to select from, it was harder to put the gift guides together. And like I said, it's fun getting free stuff, so I was super bummed. So I can relate with Wood, with BeatEmUps on some level. Great guy, by the way. Woodhawker, he's a frequent guest at Retropalooza, a video game convention in the Dallas-Fort Worth area put on by the Game Chasers, and I usually speak to him, and in Houston too. I usually speak to him, and he's always super nice. Me with less than 2,000 YouTube subscribers and him with almost 1 million. Wouldn't know it talking to him. Super nice guy. Really, really, really cool. Anyway, so I can sort of relate on some way. So I was sad too. Wood talked about, being sad about it, not just because of getting free stuff or codes. He talked about it because he's just such a Nintendo fanboy. So he was sad from that perspective, and I can relate to that. I discovered Nintendo in 1981 when Donkey Kong came out in the arcades. I was 14 years old, and I absolutely loved Donkey Kong. My brother and I would play it, and it was a difficult game at first before you figured it out. And but we got to where we could, get to all 4 screens, and we actually got pretty good at it. And I got to the point where I could score, on a pretty regular basis, around 80,000 plus. I think at my peak, I was getting over 100,000. Pretty decent score, for someone that doesn't play it, just constantly for these world records. Some people are getting over 1 million nowadays. But anyway, we got good at Donkey Kong. There were lines for the machine. It was a hugely popular. We were amazed by the cartoon-like graphics and it was just a wonderful game with multiple screens and a storyline. Very cutting edge in 1981. And then I got the ColecoVision version in 1982. More Donkey Kong. Loved me some Nintendo. I got my Nintendo NES in 1987. And I've just been, I've written books about Nintendo, and I've got the NES or the Super NES in '92, and just been current with Nintendo ever since. So I was really bummed, and I sort of asked around about this, with Nintendo, what their policies are with review copies and everything. I was just sort of curious about it, and so I didn't actually ask around about it. Let me restate that. I did a search just to see, if anybody else had experienced the same thing. And I did notice that some popular YouTubers had stopped getting Nintendo stuff as well. So Nintendo apparently changed their policy where they weren't sending out nearly as much, review items, codes, and all that kind of stuff. Consoles, handhelds, everything. They were just so generous with the review copies of things. Well, apparently, somebody sitting in an office somewhere perhaps, just said, maybe they weighed the cost analysis benefits of this, of sending out things. Whatever the case, they stopped sending out so much stuff. That was a bummer. But it was kind of reassuring to know that some really popular YouTubers stopped getting review copies as well. So it wasn't just us old newspaper guys that got stiffed, that got shorted from Nintendo. Not really shorted, it's their games. They can do with them what they want them. But got, off the Nintendo gravy train. So I guess there was some comfort in knowing that it just wasn't newspaper guys or just me particular. It was also YouTubers, trendsetters, and everything. So it wasn't just me. All right, but hey, things change. I started my writing career in 1997. That was my first published story, and I've been at it ever since. So much has changed over the years. So that's why I'm doing YouTube. That's why I have more of a social media presence now. When I first started writing for the Star Telegram, that was well over a decade ago, because I wrote for the paper for over a decade and I'm no longer with it. Things have changed so much, and I've had to evolve with everything. Being a full-time journalist is very difficult, and so I've had to do a lot of other things too, including I've got my current book on Kickstarter. The NES Omnibus Volume 1, A through L, is on Kickstarter now. And that's just part of the way I'm doing things differently now as things evolve. And, this isn't 1993 anymore, so I have to, it's not 2001. It's not even 2010. It's 2020. Much has changed, so if you could back my Kickstarter, you can get your name in there for $5. You can get the book for $50. So I'm going to put a link to the Kickstarter. Check it out. I hope if nothing else, go to the Kickstarter and watch the awesome video. It's really cool. It's just 2 minutes. All right, guys. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I'm sure BeatEmUps will be awesome. Great guy, great YouTuber. He's about to pass 1 million, and who knows, Nintendo maybe, he's talked about maybe them, maybe establishing another kind of program, and he'll be on board with that. Whatever the case, he'll be great. I'll be fine. It's all good. Still a big Nintendo fan. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you guys later.